We got ourselves another LNAM. That's right, 2 in the same year so far. Liam Neeson is back, and after taking on the drug cartel, he's now a long-haul truck driver making his way through northern Manitoba. Props for being set in Canada, and not much else. The Ice Road is the newest Liam Neeson action movie, and it actually starts out quite normal. Not that his other movies start out abnormal, but you know what I mean. It's a movie that totally feels like it could have been based on a true story, and a really good one. A story of man versus nature on all fronts. But no, it fairly quickly jumps the shark into action territory, and that's when things just sort of start to fall apart. After a methane explosion in a mine causes a bunch of miners to become trapped, it is determined that the only way to rescue them is with some very heavy equipment that must be driven to them over the course of a 26-hour trip. Unfortunately, majority of the route is over frozen lakes, and the catch is that it's April, so crank up that tension. Liam Neeson and his brother team up with 2 other truck drivers and an insurance agent, and begin the trek north with 3 trucks loaded with the exact same equipment to cover for redundancies. So right there, you know, all 3 of these trucks ain't making it to the destination. This gives us 2 groups of people to follow as the story unfolds: the truck drivers and the miners that are trapped. And both groups slowly begin to unravel this mystery that ultimately just leads to the movie going completely off the rails. I mean, the story does stay in the realm of realism. The story does. The action? Not so much. But I would be lying if I said it wasn't entertaining. At least a little bit. Let's start with what I liked about the movie. The early shots in the movie of the trucks as they begin their journey across the ice road are really cool, especially at night when you see the northern lights. Those shots were quite beautiful. So the movie's got some good cinematography for a short while. Liam Neeson. I actually thought for a little bit at the beginning of the movie that this was going to be more of a grounded character for him that he could really sink his teeth into, and we would ultimately get a more relatable character. But after the shit kicks off, yeah, it's Liam Neeson being Liam Neeson. It's not good or bad. It's just what it is. I feel like I said that in my review of The Marksman. If that's the case, I'm going to have to think of some new way of describing Liam Neeson's portrayals in these movies. The other 2 truckers are played by Lawrence Fishburne and Amber Midthunder. She was really good. She wasn't given much to work with, but what she did have was great. You hear this as an explanation a lot when it comes to movies like this that aren't very well written, but then there's that one standout actor that kind of shines amongst the darkness. So I'm going to say it here again. Amber Midthunder actually seemed like she was trying, and it's very easy to see in her performance. You can tell that she has the ability to do even better if she's given better stuff to work with. Although, spoilers, I'm not so sure that the next movie she's going to be in is going to provide her with that opportunity. Lawrence Fishburne? Well, I mean, he was probably too expensive to keep around for much longer. Before the movie reveals its hand and it's just the characters going up against the elements, it's actually pretty entertaining and quite gripping. One scene in particular really had me on the edge of my seat, so that's something. If I haven't made it obvious by this point, once the movie crosses that threshold, it becomes something akin to a 90s action movie, which I wouldn't normally mind, but this is a bad 90s action movie. It honestly probably could have been helped out by a little bit better direction and a more dynamic camera. The worst offenders are the fight scenes. Hang on, I'll come back to that. Talking about how the camera could have been more dynamic, there's this one scene where the characters have to use winches and pulleys to reposition or pull back up this semi that is tipped over, and that scene would have greatly benefited from an aerial shot. It was really cool to see what they were doing to fix that in the field, and a shot from above seeing what they had rigged up would have been awesome. But since the camera just stays locked to the ground and really close to the trucks, you get the idea that something pretty cool is happening. But other than that, the scene's actually quite plain. And the fights. Oh, buddy. See, this is why we have the cliche of main characters in stories like this being like an ex-military or soldier type character. Because when they are actually just normal people that end up in a physical confrontation, we get glorified slap fights and hug battles. Sure, it makes sense that that's how a fight would look when it's between two characters that have no training on how to fight, but that doesn't mean that it's entertaining to watch. Well, I mean, I guess that depends on your definition of entertaining. But in my opinion, with this movie, when it came to the fights that happen, and there actually are a handful of them, it really just looked like a bunch of tired old men trying to make each other go to sleep. Yikes. And the villain is just comical. He looked like a discount Pedro Pascal that had been de-aged like 20 years. Seriously, he came across as like a Doogie Howser MD sort of character. Just give him a glass of chocolate milk and this probably all could have been resolved. Although they did keep with that whole bad 90s action movie theme when it came to him. That's not a good thing. There's this scene at the end of the movie where he ends up in this impossible situation. That's it. He should have been done. And not only does he make his way out of that situation, the movie doesn't show us how he gets out of it, and he just comes barreling in on the opposite side of the truck. It's so silly and distracting, and it just takes you all the way out of the movie if you weren't already. And you know they only did that so that they could have him go out the way they originally wanted him to go out. And you know what? That's fine. If you have written a way for your villain to leave the story, I don't know why I'm doing this, just defeated, died, gone. That's fine. Just don't put him in an impossible situation beforehand. It just comes across lame and lazy. The bottom line is that if you like what Liam Neeson does in these movies, yeah, you're probably going to watch The Ice Road and you'll probably find a little bit of enjoyment out of it. I'm going to give it a 5 out of 10. A decent performance from the female lead and some really pretty shots can't make up for some weak direction and pretty lazy writing. So what about you guys? Have you seen The Ice Road? If you have, let me know what you thought about it in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.